Now that you're at the point where you have recognized and acknowledged that you have white privilege, what's next? I guess for some people it might be the question, how much white guilt do you want me to feel? Or something like that. Let's take a closer look. When we start talking about white privilege, that is one of the first questions that comes up. People bring up this thing of white guilt. You just want to make me feel really guilty about being white. And so let me get this out of the way right at the start here. That is not the point of this at all. All that guilt does is it paralyzes you. It makes you roll up into a ball like a fetus and sit in the corner of the bedroom and just be completely motionless and unable to do anything good. And so recognizing and then acknowledging your white privilege is not about getting you to a point where you can feel bad about it, especially because the very definition itself has the word unearned. And so there can be ways in which people use their whiteness to gain certain privileges, but a lot of white privilege is unearned benefit gained simply from being white. And so there are two responses that we can have with that. And the first one is that once we have recognized and acknowledged that we have white privilege, we can start to leverage that white privilege. We can use the benefits that we get to help those who don't. We can step away from the microphone. We can let the stage that would normally be set for us, we can insist that it be used for other voices, for people of color. We can make sure that we aren't the ones leading and running things and being the bosses. We can refuse to take jobs. We can refuse to take the lead on things. We can invite other people into those spaces. I hate the term giving someone else a voice because everyone has a voice, but we can create spaces that allow other people's voices to be heard. I think that's possible. I think it's amazing. I think it's a great thing. So leverage my white privilege to help others who don't have privilege. And then the second thing we can do with some areas of white privilege, so we looked at a movie example where certain roles were kept for white people, whereas black people would typically be seen as the bad guy or the help. And so the second thing we can do is we can start to dismantle white privilege in areas where it has been worked so that whiteness will be on top. We can work so that people of color are lifted up and so that whiteness can step to the side or be pushed down in some cases. And so one is leveraging, using the privilege to help others. And the second one is starting to dismantle. What are areas of white privilege? What are areas where whiteness has received an unfair advantage that we can start to dismantle? I think that's what something like BEE was meant to do. White people were getting the best jobs or the only jobs. And so BEE and other programs like that were put into place not to lift black people above white people, but just to create more of a balance and more of a way of having it look more representative in this country. One saying that has really helped me and really sticks in my mind is the idea that if you've only ever lived a life of privilege, then equality will seem like oppression. And so once we start leveraging white privilege to help others, once we start dismantling white privilege, a lot of that may feel uncomfortable to those of us who have lived in privileged positions. We've been used to going first. We've been used to having our voices heard. We've been used to dominating conversations and workspaces. And so the moment things start to become equal, it might feel like it's becoming unfair to us. We might start wanting to say things like reverse racism and things like that, when in actual fact, we're just looking at more equality or equity, ways where we as white people are not taking the lead anymore. And so instead of white guilt, I want to encourage you to look for areas of white responsibility. Conviction is something that causes us or invites us or urges us, pushes us to do things. Guilt is something that paralyzes. Conviction says something is wrong, let's make it better. So that is the step we want. Firstly, you've got to recognize it, then you've got to acknowledge it, but then you've got to start being convicted about it by leveraging and by dismantling. And so let's look for areas in our life where those are things that can be done and need to be done, and let's start doing them. But let's do it together.